Welcome to the Unbecoming Hub podcast. Reflections about being human without treating yourself as something to fix. I'm your host, Lacey Kelly. So my son has a little stomach bug. And I was looking at him the other day, thinking about his stomach bug. I was just rubbing his belly, looking at him. And looking at him is just one of my favorite things because every time I do, I'm just so mind blown that he exists. I'm just like, wow, you were in my womb. Like my body created you out of nothing. And now you're here and you're growing like a weed. It's crazy. And what a miracle, and every human life is just such a miracle. I love looking at him, just basking in that. Anyway, I was looking at him, and when I look into his eyes, I can see the wholeness, the sense of completeness. And it's something I talk about in the process of unbecoming and just at Unbecoming You, this idea that we're born whole and complete as we are. And that it never leaves, never dies. It's inherent. It transcends time. And I really believe that. And one of the cool things I think about babies is when you look at them and you look into their eyes, you can see them still connected with that. And over time, we have to orient away from it and adapt to our environments and turn away from that wholeness inside. Our environment, can condition us to think we're not that way. It's just, I think, part of being human. I'm not really sure there's a way around it. But in babies, you can still see the human body and the wholeness merged. It's still, there's no separation yet. And I was sitting there thinking about this bug in his tummy. And it reminded me that he's very much in a human body, It's interesting looking at babies because they're so miraculous. Sometimes I forget they're human. And I think this is sometimes the innocence that people talk about with babies or children, or the purity idea or something like that. There's just you forget they're human in a way, they're so perfect. And I think about that a lot with him. He's so perfect. He's so perfect. It's what does that actually mean? What is this idea of innocence or purity or perfection or whatever that we associate with babies and kids? And I don't think it actually has anything to do with age. I think it's just because this wholeness and completeness, you can still see it through their eyes. And when I think of the word perfect, it's easy to think about it like flawless, without flaw, but no, it's just complete. And so I look at him and he's complete. He's whole. He's perfect. He hasn't yet had to turn away from himself to adapt to situations. He hasn't drawn conclusions about himself as it relates to his environment. He hasn't internalized anything negative about himself yet. So when I look at his eyes, it's like I'm looking directly at a soul. It's just the best feeling. It reminds me that I'm a soul, of the perfection in me, or the wholeness in me. Everybody is. I think that's also why, inner child work can be effective. Not necessarily anything to do with the child within, but trying to remember that soul or wholeness, completeness, whatever word you want to use within you, that has never left, only been conditioned to believe it was never there or lost. So I'm looking at him, thinking about this bug, seeing him whole and complete, maybe even ignorant to the fact that he has a bug. I don't know. But then I remember, like, he is in a human body. Like, he's a human. I'm looking at a soul, but he's a human. And here's this human with a bug. And I talk about this in the book, that the human condition exists within wholeness. It's one of the principles in the process of unbecoming. And the way I imagine it is that this wholeness or completeness transcends time and personality, and it holds the human condition. And it's such a paradox in a way, because this wholeness is just complete. It's just, I don't know, it's hard to find a word. But then I look at the human condition and it's so imperfect. We have good and bad and happy and sad and ugly and beautiful and all these contradictions that are necessary. You need the bad to know what's good, and you need to have all of that. All of it existing within this perfection. And there's no way around it. Have this urge or feeling like I should protect him from the human condition somehow. Like I think about him with this bug and I'm like, oh, I should have done XYZ, whatever. I should have not let my animals near him because he totally got it from one of our puppies. We have 5 dogs and 4 cats. It's, the dogs bring everything under the sun into the house. It's, in some ways it was inevitable, but there's this idea of like, I should have done more or something. And then I sit back and I'm just like, he's a human. There's going to be so many things he experiences that suck, because that's the human condition. And within it, or the human condition existing within this perfection, so I'm watching him, those eyes open, just totally at home with himself. And meanwhile, he has a bug. It's just this like reminder. He's just so human. There's no way around it. And I think about that, with myself too, because seeing him in his perfection and his wholeness and his completeness reminds me that that's in me and everybody around. We all have this. And watching the human condition fluctuate within that, our bodies age, our personalities adapt, good things happen, bad things happen, because that's the human experience. And within all of it, it's just perfect. So it's been fun having him, being reminded just how miraculous all of this is. And it's hard to be a human. It's hard to be a human. I think about all the things my son is going to experience as a human, living in the human condition, and how much control I really have. I think there's a balance with everything, obviously. As a parent, there's a responsibility to do your best, boundaries, protection, all that good stuff. When you really zoom out, I like to do this a lot. I see myself in my life and then I just get bigger and bigger until I'm in space looking at the earth. When you really like zoom out about things. How funny to think that I could have stopped this bug. There's so many things happening that are beyond our control. And I think that's another terrifying thing. Also, looking at him, that because he's a human, he's immortal, amortal, not immortal. I wish. And it's a lot. It's a lot to take in. But when I remember and I look at him and I remember that wholeness, the essence, the essential nature of being human, and the human condition that exists within it, I can't help but just feel so much joy and gratitude for being able to witness it emerge in another from the beginning. And it's just so good to remember that we were all this once. We were all babies. We were all once merged with that sense inside. And I think that this is the existential longing that so many of us can feel. The feeling of wanting to be home somewhere. Just feel settled. And when I look at him, like, he's settled, he's at home. And you always have to leave home to know you want to come back, right? I mean, so it makes sense. This is the nature of things, that we turn away from it and we forget. But then we can come back. You know, you can always go back home. And looking at him takes me back home. So maybe this is just all this is meant to be, as in this podcast. I don't really know where I'm going with it exactly, but I think that's kind of it. Just remembering that you can come home, because, I mean, I'm biased, but my son's totally a miracle. But we all are, right? Because we all are here, and we all know what it feels like deep in our bones to be at home. And we are all perfect, really, inside. Not without flaw, but complete. And the flaw happens in the human condition as it's meant to. And what a fun thing to get to watch. I just love it. So, I don't know. I guess that's it for today. These thoughts have just been swirling around in my head for a few days now, and I wanted to put them somewhere. So here they are. You can find more of this work at theunbecominghub.com. Until next time.